Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Manitoba Parks Learn to Ski webinar. My name is Lindsay, and I'm a park interpreter in Birds Hill Provincial Park, located on Treaty 1 territory, homeland of the Anishinaabe and the Métis Nation, whose peoples are deeply connected with the plants and animals of this land. Some quick housekeeping to go over very quickly. This presentation is being recorded. All participants are in listen-only mode, muted, and cameras are disabled. Over the course of the webinar, please use the chat box for comments, or if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box on the Zoom window, and we will strive to answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. So tonight, I'm very happy to be partnering with our special guest, Ken, who has done many cross-country ski clinics for us in Manitoba parks over the years, and he's going to be leading us through a virtual Learn to Ski lesson. So to get us started, we'd like to know a little bit about our viewers at home. And so we're going to put up a poll question for you to answer. If you are unable to see the poll question, you may have to click the poll button if you're on a mobile device. And so the question is, what is your cross-country ski experience? Do you consider yourself new or a beginner skier? Have you skied for a few years, but maybe need some help with your technique? Have you skied for many years, but maybe need a review of the proper techniques to use? Do you consider yourself an intermediate skier and are looking for some pointers to improve your technique? Or are you an advanced skier working towards the Olympics? And Ken knows I always kind of have this little joke every year that we do a ski clinic where I say I'm on the 10-year ski plan, and in 10 years, I will be ready for the Olympics. And I think this year is year 5 or year 6. So I'm almost there. I'm almost ready for the Olympics. So it looks like we have quite a few of our polls have come in. We'll give that just another second or two here. And we're going to end our polling right away and launch our results. So hopefully you've had a chance to enter your poll. And we'll take a look here. Oh, there's a few more still coming in. All right, let's see where we're at. So it looks like the majority of our participants tonight are new and beginner skiers, and that's wonderful. We're so glad that you're joining us tonight. This is the right place for you to be. For those of you that have maybe skied for a few years or even many years, and you're looking for some help with your technique, Ken is going to share all kinds of wonderful tips with us tonight. He has some video to show us of proper ski techniques. So this will really help you out and be able to really enjoy your time out skiing and enjoy whatever location that you're out visiting while you're out skiing. So we have one other poll question that we're going to do. So I'm going to stop this one and move on to our second poll question. And this one is to give us an idea of where you enjoy going skiing in Manitoba. So you can choose multiple answers for this one. We've broken it down into different regions of the province. So there's the Winnipeg metro area, the Interlake, Eastern region, South, Westman, Parkland, or the Northern regions. So please choose all that apply, any of the areas of the province where you enjoy skiing. And if you're looking for some new areas to explore, maybe this will also give you an idea of some different locations where you can head out skiing in Manitoba this winter. So again, we'll just give our poll a few more seconds here. I see lots of results coming in. That's awesome. All right, so a few more seconds. And we're going to end the polling in 3, 2, 1. All right, and let's take a look. And so it looks like a lot of people are out skiing in the Winnipeg metro area. So that could include Birds Hill, Beaudry, Windsor Park, Grand Beach, or any city parks. Quite a few people out in the Interlake and Eastern Manitoba. A few in the south. Nice to see a few people up skiing in the northern parts of the province. That's a beautiful area to get out and ski in. So this is great, and hopefully this gives you an idea of some new places to go out and explore skiing in Manitoba. So we'll take down that poll now. And I'd like to introduce Ken to you. If you haven't met Ken before at one of our previous ski clinics that have been held in Birds Hill or Spruce Woods over the years, Ken is a familiar face to many of us. He's been skiing for many, many years. In fact, he took his first ski lesson when about 45 years ago and has been teaching skiing for the last 35 years. So when Ken is not busy teaching ski lessons or teaching other instructors, you can find him out exploring parks and other natural spaces, skiing in Manitoba. So please at home, help me to welcome Ken. And Ken, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And we look forward to all the skills and knowledge you're going to share with us.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. It's a pleasure to be here, and I welcome all the participants in our session this evening. It's good to see a really great turnout tonight. As Lindsay had mentioned, we usually do a ski clinic at Birds Hill, but with the pandemic this year, face-to-face events such as that are not possible. So doing a ski clinic online is perhaps the next best thing, although it certainly will have its limitations. I just wanted to describe quickly the format that we'll use for the session tonight. I'll be sharing video with you of some techniques, diagonal stride, double poling, and some uphill and downhill techniques. I'm going to point out really just the key elements within those techniques, some of the key pointers that you'll want to remember as you're out practicing your skiing and out enjoying the trails. I'll try to paint those as a sort of self-check points so you can remember, oh, this is what I need to think about when I'm out skiing. And then we'll finish up with a question and answer period towards the end. I want to also mention a big thank you to Lindsay and her colleagues for setting this up and for shooting the video that we're using tonight. So very appreciative of the effort that you and your colleagues have put into this. So let's get started then. I'm going to share the screen and we're going to take a look at me out skiing just to get us going here. Well, perhaps not quite skiing. We all end up falling down at some point when we're out skiing. And I wanted to start off by sharing with you some thoughts, some ideas on the best way to get up in case we should fall down while we're out skiing. The best way to avoid straining muscles or breaking ski poles and the like is to roll over onto your back once you've skied, once you've fallen down, sort your skis out, sort the poles out, and then put your skis down onto the snow beside you, climb up over the front of the skis, and then stand up. We're going to take a look at the full sequence here. I'll do this maybe a couple of times. I fall down, roll on my back to sort out my skis, put them down beside me, stand up over the front of the skis, shake the snow off, and away I go again. One important thing to remember as we're doing this particular series of movements to get up is that if we should happen to fall down on a hill, we want to make sure that when we put our skis down, the skis are perpendicular to the slope so that we don't end up starting to slide downhill as soon as we get up onto our skis. So this is a safe and easy way to get up should you happen to fall down while you're out skiing. We're now going to move on to looking at diagonal stride. Diagonal stride is a technique that we use most often when we're skiing. It's used on flat ground and gentle uphills. We're going to look at 3 different components of the diagonal stride: balancing on each foot, leaning forward, and then using our poles. And we'll look at those one at a time. But first, let's look at one skier going by here to get an image of what the entire diagonal stride looks like. So she's skiing along, gliding on one ski, then on the other ski, leaning forward and using her poles nicely. The first element that we want to look at as we're doing our diagonal stride, and most skiing techniques actually, is balancing on each ski. And when we talk about balancing on our skis, what I'm talking about is getting over top each ski. So in this case, my left ski, so that my body is centered over that ski. My zipper, for instance, is lined up over top that ski. My nose is over top that ski, and I'm lined up with that particular ski track. Looking up at the horizon is a good way to help us achieve our balance. Having a horizon in our field of view helps us to balance a lot. And then as we're balancing on one ski, then we'll move over and balance on the other ski. Same thing, lining up over top that ski and lining up with the track on that side. So let's take a look now at what this looks like as I do a few balancing movements from one side to the other, and then as I'm starting to move forward. And as I start to move forward, you can see that I'm balancing on one ski and each foot is coming down in front of the other as I'm putting my weight onto that ski. So lining up with each track is a key point in terms of being able to balance on each ski. The second component that we want to consider in our diagonal stride is leaning forward. And when we talk about leaning forward here, we're talking about bending at the ankles again. So I'm going to just stop this at one point here. So when we're leaning forward in cross-country skiing, we'll have a flexed ankle here, flexed knee and hip, and my body weight is starting to be on the ball of my foot. I'm going to move this ahead just a wee bit so we can just get a better view of that particular position. Here, we'll use this one. So here, as my feet are passing by each other, my ankles are flexed, my knees are flexed, hips are flexed as well. I'm leaning forward, the weight is on the ball of my foot. In this case, I think it's my right foot that my weight is on, and I'm starting to lean forward, getting my body weight essentially pulling me down the trail. So let's take a look at this now, and we'll view this one in slow motion, so you get a good sense of what it looks like as I'm leaning forward while I'm skiing. So flexed ankle, most importantly, is getting my hips forward and my body weight forward as I'm moving down the trail. So a key thing as we're skiing along and working on this is to feel the weight on the ball of your foot. I'm going to show you a little exercise now that will help us get a really good sense of this moving forward. I'm going to change our speed back to normal. And this actually is an exercise that we can do right now. You can stand up, move your chair to the side, and join in as we do this exercise together. We're going to stand in one spot with our feet together, and then get onto one foot with one hand out in front, as the opposite hand in front. And at this point, we're going to start to hop. Hop forward, turn around, hop back. And as you're hopping around like this, you'll have the weight on the ball of your foot. And the great thing about this is that this is actually the position that you want to be in while you're balancing on one ski, skiing along. It's a great little exercise. It's one that you can do at home. And you can also do it outdoors. You can do it on your skis if you have a hard packed area where your skis will not sink in too much. So the key element in terms of balancing on one ski and leaning forward is having that flexed ankle and flexed knee and hip getting over top of that ski. Next thing that we're going to take a look at is using our poles. And just before we get into the actual movement of our poles, I'm going to come back to, or stop the video for a moment and illustrate or demonstrate how we will put our poles on. So Lindsay, you may have to change the video setting here for me. But with our poles, we want to form a loop with the strap, have our hand go up through the loop, the hand including the thumb, and then that comes down over top the handle. So my thumb and my forefingers are on opposite sides of the handle. And this way I'm able to push down on the pole, pushing on the strap without really having to hold the pole very tightly. If the strap is adjusted properly, I'll be able to grip the pole between my thumb and my forefinger like this without having to hold on to it if the strap is adjusted properly. That allows us to put all of our weight onto the pole and propel ourselves forward very easily. I'm going to go back to the screen share, to the video here, and we're just going to take a look at the actual poling action here. I'm going to back this up just a wee bit. Let me stop this again. So we start the poling action in our skiing from a position here where my hand is up forward of my shoulder. My arm slightly bent and the pole is pointing backwards. My hand is going to come down past my hips and end up behind me with the pole and my arm in a straight line at the back of the movement. Like that. And then my hand will come back forward and up to that same starting point. You can see here at the end of my poling movement with my arm, I've actually opened up my hand as I give a final flick of the wrist to maximize the push on the pole through that whole movement. One of the things that we need to remember as we're skiing along and trying to use our poles effectively is to get the arm all the way back as it's shown here in this video. And a good way to practice this is just to extend your arm to the back. It's not a position that we put our arms into very often, so that you know what that feels like and are able to replicate that movement when you're out skiing. We'll take a look at this again. You see the movement from forward all the way back, the pole pointing backwards the whole time. Going to watch the whole technique now. We've looked at three of the main components that we need to look at: balancing on each ski, leaning forward, and having a nice smooth arm movement. So we're going to take a look at me skiing in slow motion here. So we get a sense of these movements where I'm balancing on each foot, leaning forward by flexing my ankle, and then having a nice long extension of the pulling movement to the back. We've got one more skier to look at here, and we're going to watch her skiing at a normal pace, where you can see that she is still balancing on each foot, leaning forward, and using her poles all the way to the back to get as much push as she can from her poling action. So those are some of the key elements of diagonal stride. Let's take a look now at double poling. Double poling is a technique that we use on flat ground or slight downhills, especially when gliding conditions, when the skis glide really well, usually in warmer weather. Many people think of this as a movement that requires considerable arm strength, but in fact, it's a technique that uses the entire body. And as we watch the skier doing double poling, you'll notice how she flexes her arms at the pole plant and then leans forward, getting her weight onto the poles, and engages her core muscles here to pull herself forward with the poles. We're going to watch this again at a slow motion speed, just so we get a good sense of what this is like. So she's reaching forward, doing the pole plant, pulls through with her core muscles, and you can see that it's a very effective and very powerful type of movement. I'm going to go back and we'll play this one more time at regular speed to give you a view again of just all the techniques that are going on here. So we're going to look at how she's leaning forward, engaging her core muscles, and propelling herself forward. So as you're out skiing, you want to make sure that you get your body weight onto the poles with each stride that you take, and you're using not just your arms, but you're using your entire body to propel yourself forward. It's a very efficient way to move on snow, and in the racing community, many races are done using that technique almost exclusively. We're going to look at some of the hill techniques now, moving through these very quickly. Going uphill and downhill. One of the easiest techniques to use for maneuvering up and down hills is what we call the sidestep. And as the name suggests, it's simply a matter of having your skis perpendicular to the hill, across the hill, taking steps up and down the hill to safely and effectively maneuver up and down a hill. The key element in this technique is to keep your skis perpendicular to the hill. So in this case, the hill is sloping from right to left. And this skier is keeping her skis perpendicular to that so that she won't start to slide forward or backwards. If the hill happens to have some different angles to it, then you may have to change the angle of your skis as you go up and down the hill. You may also find with steeper hills that you may have to actually edge the ski a little bit by flexing the ankle a little bit, as we can see here. So she gets the edge of the ski biting into the snow, giving her more grip to go up or down that hill. So this is a simple and effective way to go up and down a hill. And once you're comfortable with that technique, it can also be a very fast technique. A faster way to go up and down hills is what we call the herringbone. And what makes this technique a bit faster is that it allows for an easy transition from diagonal stride that we just looked at into the herringbone maneuver and then back into the diagonal stride. So you don't have to break your rhythm as you're going up the hill. Diagonal stride, the herringbone here has the same movements as we see with the diagonal stride, except that we're of course putting our skis into a V pattern like this. And the push that I have with my ski is actually a push to the side. So I'm going to be pushing myself here with my left foot off to the right instead of pushing backwards along the line of the ski. If I was to push backwards, then my ski would slip backwards and I would tumble on the hill. So as we go up, you can see that I'm shifting from side to side as I'm pushing myself from one ski to the other, and then I can transition back into the diagonal stride at the top of the hill. We'll take a look at this one more time. Looking for that smooth transition from diagonal stride into the herringbone and back out, and that pushing from side to side that allows me to climb up the hill. The next techniques that we're going to look at are our downhill techniques. And there are two introductory points to moving downhill that I want to talk about. The first is to decide at the top of the hill how you want to go down the hill. Because once you're halfway down the hill and potentially out of control, it's very difficult to change the decision that you've made. So at the top of the hill, make that judgment call about how you're going to go down the hill. You may find that it's most most safe to take your skis off and walk down the side of the track. You may choose to do the side step that we had looked at just a moment ago. You may want to stay in the tracks and just enjoy a fast little slide down the hill. Or, as we'll see in a moment, if you want to control your speed going down the hill, you would do the snowplow technique. Whatever technique you're using to go down the hill, what is very important is to have this kind of position as you're about to go down the hill. So similar to what we've seen in some of the other skiing positions and the other techniques we've talked about, it's important to flex the ankles, the knees and hips are bent. My hands are out in front where I can see them. My poles are pointing backwards. So here my weight is evenly distributed both on the ball of the foot and on the heel of the foot. This is not a static position. It's actually one where I'm going to be flexible so I can adjust to any bumps or changing snow conditions as I go down the hill. It's also one that I need to maintain relative to my skis as I go down the hill. We'll take a look at this again. So I'm maintaining a flexible position and I sort of tip forward a little bit as I go down the hill. Many people have a tendency right at this point to lean backwards, and that will almost guarantee that you will fall backwards because your skis are starting to go down the hill, and by standing up or leaning backwards, you're going up the hill. So you'll end up doing a backward somersault. So it's very important to maintain that downhill position with your flexed ankles as you go down the hill. Keep up to your skis as you're going down the hill. We'll look at this again. Proper position, most hills are quite easily maneuvered through. If you need to control your speed going down the hill, slow down as you're going down the hill, the snowplow is the effective way to do this. The snowplow technique is just a matter of getting into that position that we just looked at, and then as you're going down the hill, push your heels out to form a V with your skis, and you may want to edge the skis by rolling your knees in a little bit, getting the skis on their inside edges to slow you down a little bit more, or even come to a stop on a hill. Doing this technique, you need a flat area. It cannot be done within ski tracks, but many areas where you're likely to be skiing, the downhill sections will have a flat area, a skate track beside it perhaps, or the area has been kind of flattened out by other people skiing down the hill. We're going to look at this technique in slow motion because the clip is only about a couple of seconds because it's downhill. And you'll notice I have that same relaxed stance that we had talked about a moment ago. I push my skis out to the side, and then as I get to the bottom of the hill, let the skis come in parallel again. And we'll just watch this one more time again in slow motion. I start off moving, push my heels out to form that V, and then skis come back together as we get to the bottom of the hill. So there, in just a matter of a few minutes, we've covered off many of the main techniques that we need to think about when we're cross-country skiing. We looked at how to get up if we happen to fall down by sorting out our skis and then crawling forward over the front of the skis and standing up. We looked at diagonal stride and the importance of balancing over top of each ski, lining up with one ski track and then lining up with the other ski track. We looked at the importance of leaning forward when we're skiing, and having that flexed ankle, this kind of position when we're gliding on one ski, so that we fundamentally use our body weight to pull us forward down the ski trail. Same thing the other side. We talked about poling and using our hand motion from up in front of our shoulders all the way back, the pole pointing backwards, and a nice smooth arm movement from front to back, and returning back to the front again. We looked at double pulling, which is a fast and very effective way to go down flat ground or slight downhills, and how this becomes a full body movement, not an arms only movement. We engage our whole body and really make sure that we get our weight onto our ski poles, use our core muscles, our abs to pull ourselves forward onto our poles. And then we talked about the hill techniques, the side step to go up and down fairly steep hills safely. And once you get accustomed to this technique, you can actually go up and down hills very, very quickly as well. We looked at the herringbone as another technique for going up and down hills, a little bit faster and an easier transition from diagonal stride. And you can actually go up really quite steep hills with this by forming quite a wide V. And then lastly, we looked at the all-important body position when we're doing downhill techniques, maintaining that flexed ankle and a nice fluid position here so we can move and adjust as we go down the hill. And then incorporating a V in our position of pushing out our heels to form a V to create the snowplow and control our speed going down the hill. So in a matter of a few minutes here, we've covered off all of the main components, the main techniques, and some of the key elements of each one that I hope will make it easier for you to get out and enjoy some of the ski trails this winter. Now with that, I'm going to turn it back to Lindsay to sort of moderate our Q&A here.
Yeah, so that was great, Ken. Thanks so much. So we have some questions here. And again, if you do have any questions for Ken about skiing, the different ski techniques or something he showed in the videos, please put those into the Q&A box and we'll answer them for you now. So the first question comes in from Holly. She's asking, is having a long stride a good thing? Sometimes my skis make a clapping noise when I stride.
Good, very, very good question. And I kind of expected the clapping noise question to come up. Having a long stride is quite useful in cross-country skiing. The longer the stride, the more push you can get as you're skiing along. The clapping sound is a result of not balancing fully on each ski. So if we go back to the element of balancing on each ski, and I'll actually see if I can go back and we'll get that video up again. Here we are. So as we're looking at balancing on each ski again, the point is to get all of my weight over top this ski. So you can see here my right ski is completely unweighted, and I can move that ski forward and then put my weight onto it. The clapping sound happens when if I'm not completely balanced over this ski. As I start to move this one forward, I tend to fall onto it and it slaps down and then I slide it forward. So as we watch me skiing forward here, you'll see how it becomes a very smooth movement from one ski to the other. Let me get this back to normal speed. So I'm putting my weight from one foot to the other very smoothly and completely, and that avoids that ski slap happening. So stop the share here. So balancing on each ski, really focusing on balancing on each ski will help to avoid that ski slap. Thank you for the great question.
All right, our next question is from, The questions keep popping in and my screen is moving. Here we go. Next question is from Colleen. How often should you wax your skis?
Waxing your skis, presuming that we're talking about the grip wax, you'll need to change the grip wax every time the temperature changes. So I typically will try to change the wax every day that I go out skiing. So I'll select the appropriate wax for the day and apply that, and then I'll scrape that wax off at the end of the day. Should I forget which wax I have on the next time I go skiing, then I'm starting with a clean ski instead of having to remove the wax at that point. So the grip waxes change basically every day. The glide wax, which is on the front and back of the ski, the grip wax is only underneath the foot. The glide wax, generally for most skiers, you can leave that on all year, and it's applied as a hot wax, and we usually get some of the local ski shops to apply that.
All right, our next question is from Kelly. Any tips on how to lift the back foot?
Lifting the back foot. The interesting thing about lifting the back foot is that you don't really need to do that. Lifting the back foot is only a function of how much you're leaning forward. So if you're leaning forward just a little bit, your foot will stay fairly close to the snow as it comes off at the end of your push and as you bring it forward. If you're leaning forward much further, then as you finish your push with the leg, your ski will come up much more off the snow. So there's no magic amount that the ski has to come up off the snow. The most important thing is to make sure that your weight is shifting completely from one ski to the other. Very good question.
All right, our next question is from Jennifer, and it's regarding the downhill technique. She noticed that in the example video, the skier widened their stance while on the steepest part of the slope. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, in doing the snowplow technique, creating that V-shaped movement when I'm going down the hill, the wider the V, the more I'm slowing down as I go down the hill. So you'll simply use a wider V to control your speed and a narrower V if you want to go a little bit faster. So as I'd gone down the hill there, I started off with a very narrow V, widened it as I wanted to slow down through the steeper part of the hill. And then as I got to the bottom and it became a little bit more gentle hill, I allowed my skis to come back in parallel, and I was able to control my speed that way.
All right, so while we're on the topic of hills, there's a question on tips for going uphill with just the diagonal stride while in the tracks. So any tips for that?
All right. The most effective tip that I give to skiers to go up a hill using diagonal stride is to have a really strongly pronounced weight shift from one ski to the other. If you can really quite jump onto one ski and then jump onto the other ski, forcing each ski and the wax on that ski down, you'll be quite surprised how steep a hill you can climb up just going straight up the tracks. I ski at Birds Hill quite often, and I can ski up any of the hills there just going straight up, just with good technique, shifting fully from one ski to the other. Looking up rather than looking down at your skis will help you to achieve that really pronounced weight shift from one ski to another.
All right, and another question about hills. You mentioned a wide V on the herringbone with steeper hill climbs. With less steep climbs, would you narrow the V?
Yeah, so very similar to going down a hill. You change the width of the V in going up as well. So if it's a very shallow hill, you may have just a very, very shallow V. So it's almost like doing a diagonal stride. And if you're going up a very steep hill, then it's a much wider V, and you'll be shifting your weight much more pronounced manner from one ski way over to the other ski.
All right. And if you are going downhill, is it better to fall backwards if you think you may lose your balance?
Ideally, you would want to fall a little bit back and to the side. But at the point that a person is falling, I often think that they may not have very much choice in the matter. So the important thing in going downhill is not to lean backwards as soon as you start from the top. So maintain that body position that we looked at in the video with flexed ankles, hands out in front where you can see them, and maintain that position as you're going downhill. I've quite often seen people go down hills and their hands are not out in front where they can see them. One arm might sort of drop back a little bit, and then that starts their body to rotate and they go off balance, and then there's a crash. So it's very important to keep your hands out in front and make sure that you have those flexed ankles and you're in that flexed position going down the hill. And that will do best in terms of helping you stay in control as you're going down the hill. Not surprising that there's a lot of questions about doing hills.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we have one more. So Ashley would like to know any tips for turning on a hill?
For turning on a hill, yes, we can. I'm going to maybe share the screen again, and we'll go back to that snowplow image, and I'll just make a few comments about how we might look at converting that into turning on a hill. So I'm going to share the screen again, and we'll move us way back to our snowplow. Right about here someplace. So if we wanted to turn as we're going down the hill and in the snowplow position, all I would need to really do is to sort of point my skis, turn my skis, or steer them in the new direction. So if I'm going to make a left turn, for instance, from this position, I'm going to sort of steer my right foot. So it's going to take this direction, and my left foot I will steer as well, and it's going to take that direction. You will want to do this as your skis are more flat on the snow than edged. And you want to steer with your feet first and try to make a gentle turn. It's easiest to do this when you've got a nice packed surface versus a surface that is sort of chewed up or has tracks. And one does have to be careful about making turns on hills that you want to have a good snow condition for the type of turn that you're going to make. So most people do make snowplow turns, and they can be quite easy once you get accustomed to them, and you could just sort of zigzag down the hill making snowplow turns. Those are the types of things that in an actual ski lesson we would spend quite some time covering off, and quite a bit of time practicing. So thank you for the question and kind of expanding our range of techniques tonight.
Yeah. Ken, while you had the video up there, somebody wanted to know if you could replay the first part of the video where it showed how to get back up when you fall.
We certainly can do that. I'm going to go right back to the beginning. Point out that I usually don't ski like this, but every now and then I do. So I roll on my back to sort out my skis, put the skis down beside me, crawl over the front of the ski, stand up, shake the snow off, and away I go again. It's safe, it's easy, and avoids straining muscles, breaking poles, and the like.
All right. So we have a couple more questions here. For downhill or going downhill, can you use your poles to slow you down?
Dragging your poles may slow you down a little bit. I wouldn't count on them as being particularly effective for slowing you down on a downhill. And particularly with the conditions they are right now, most trails are very hard packed, and the poles will probably just bounce a lot as you're going down the hill. So if you want to practice slowing down, just find a nice hill to practice on. Practice the snowplow technique that we looked at. There are a few hills at Birds Hill, and some of the parks in the city here. Windsor Park has some nice areas that are wide, packed areas where you can practice the snowplow technique, and that is a much more effective way to slow down on a downhill.
All right, I think we've exhausted all of our uphill and downhill questions. We have quite a few questions now about waxing techniques. So the first one is, what type of maintenance should be done on a set of waxless skis?
Waxless skis, there are two different types of waxless skis these days. There are the skis that have a fish scaled pattern on the bottom, and then there are skis that have skins on the bottom. A skin is like a strip of mohair on the bottom of the ski that functions in the same way that a wax would function. Both of those types of skis really only require some glide waxing, and that can normally be done probably about once a year, and the ski shops are most well suited for doing that. It's a little bit of a messy job to do it. People can do it at home, but the wax has to be melted onto the ski and ironed out and then scraped off. So it's easy for ski shops to do it, and it's a good practice to take your skis in for hot waxing at the end of the season so they're ready to go as soon as the snow falls the next year.
All right. The next question is from Iris. Can you talk a bit about liquid glide wax versus hot glide wax?
I wish I could. I'm not. I don't have any experience using liquid glide waxes. All of the glide waxes I've ever used have been hard waxes that are melted onto the skis. I have heard about the liquid glide waxes, but unfortunately haven't tried them myself. So I'm not a waxing aficionado. My approach to waxing is to keep it very, very simple.
All right. Heather would like to know, how do you repair small nicks or grooves in the kick area of your ski? And does this mean you didn't have enough wax?
Small nicks in the bottom of the ski are probably just an indication that you've skied across a rock or a bit of gravel or something here and there. If the scratch is not too deep, all you really need to do is maybe take a sharp knife or something and smoothen it out to cut off any little strands that might be sticking up. If it's a deeper gouge in the ski that is like almost through the base of the ski, then what I would recommend is to take it into a ski shop, and they can do a repair there where they have to melt in a new piece of plastic into the bottom. And it's, again, a bit of a messy job, and best left to a ski shop to do that. If it's just a small scratch, no problem. Just smoothen it out and keep skiing. My skis have a lot of scratches in the bottom.
All right, Lori would like to know, again, regarding waxing, how many layers should be put on?
Again, my approach to waxing is to keep it very, very simple. So when I put a grip wax on my skis, I'm putting on only one layer. racers will take a very different approach, and necessarily so because they may be out for longer when they're skiing and in varying conditions. So they may put on several layers of wax and applying each layer and then corking it down, putting on another layer, cork it down to smoothen it out. I probably spend a matter of 10 or 15 seconds waxing my ski. I just put some wax on, cork it in, and away I go. I want to spend my time skiing rather than in my basement waxing skis. So you can put on layers if you wish, but as long as you've got a good layer of wax on the skis, you can get out there and enjoy skiing.
All right. Dennis says that they have skin skis and find them very slippery. What sort of wax do they need to put on the tip and tail, or should they not be using wax on these types of skis at all?
If the skis are very slippery, putting any glide wax on the tip and the tail of the ski is probably going to basically increase the amount they slip. The key thing with skin skis is that they have to be you have to select skis that are appropriate for your weight, because unlike waxable skis where you can adjust the weight or adjust the wax pocket, create a longer area underneath the ski in which you put the grip wax, you can't do that with skin skis. So it's very important to make sure that your skin skis are appropriate for your weight, and the ski shop where you buy your skis should line that up with you, making sure that they are the appropriate camber for your weight. Now, I'm presuming that the question is in fact about slipping as one is trying to push forward, and that's what my response was answering. If the skis are just really gliding a lot, and you're still getting a lot of grip, you can still push with them. Enjoy it. That's what skiing is all about. So I hope that answers the question.
All right. Donna would like to know, how do you strip wax off your skis?
If it's a grip wax that we're talking about, the grip wax can be removed just by scraping it off the skis. And I can do a little demonstration here where I'll put a layer of wax onto my ski. So I'm going to just cork the wax into the ski like this. And I take a scraper and I will just pull the scraper up, angle the scraper against the ski this way. With a lot of pressure, just pull the wax off like that. Most of it comes off in there. So just scraping it off is the most effective way to remove a simple grip wax from a ski. Some waxes are maybe very sticky, and you may wish to use a wax solvent to remove them. I also like to remove the wax when the ski is cold. So if I'm going to, as soon as I finish skiing while I'm still outside and the ski is cold, I'll remove the wax, and it comes off much more easily when it's cold. And then I put the wax on when the ski is warm. It's easier to apply the wax when it's warm. Ski wax solvent you can buy in most ski shops, and apply it with a rag and just wipe it off. And particularly if you're using a very soft wax for warmer weather, you may wish to clean your ski with that at the end of the day. So hopefully we'll get some warm weather and actually need to use those warm waxes.
All right. Cheryl would like to know, is it better to have the ski shop apply glide wax at the end of the season, so before the summer, or in the fall time as we prepare for winter?
I prefer to have the glide wax applied at the end of the season. It helps to keep the skis from drying out too much because you've got a layer of wax on them over the summertime. But more importantly, it means that your skis are ready to go as soon as we've got some snow in the fall. The ski shops usually are very busy in the fall, and if you have to get your skis waxed before you can go out skiing, you may lose those first great days of skiing early in the fall. So I always look forward to getting my skis waxed at the end of the season. Nice to see people thinking ahead for preparing for next year already.
Yes. Kathy would like to know regarding temperature when determining which wax to use, do you consider the wind chill temperature?
No, the wind chill really doesn't come into effect when choosing the wax for the day, the grip wax for the day. What the temperature of the wax is referring to is actually the snow temperature. So on every tube of wax, of grip wax, there'll be temperature markings right on the tube. So this one is -4 to -10, and that is the actual snow temperature that it's referring to, which in rare instances may be different than air temperature. But by and large, you can just go by the air temperature, and the wax is probably going to work for you. You don't have to take into account wind chill.
All right, I think we have one more question here about waxing, and then we'll move on to some questions about equipment. So do you layer your kick wax by ironing the first 2 layers, then corking in the last 2 layers?
One certainly can do that. There are advantages to layering wax on a ski. The waxes will tend to wear off the ski in layers, similar to the way they're applied. So if you're out skiing, like if you're going to go out and do a 40 or 50 kilometer ski, applying wax in layers is a good idea because it will wear off in layers and you'll still have wax at the end of the day. I again take the approach of keeping my waxing very, very simple, and I just put on 1 layer and cork it in quickly, and away I go skiing. But what our participant has suggested in terms of ironing on a couple of layers and then corking in another layer would certainly be a good approach. Recommend that for those that are into sort of high-tech waxing.
All right, so moving on to some questions about clothing and equipment. Kelly would like to know, what kind of clothing do you recommend for skiing?
The important thing in selecting clothing for skiing is to dress in layers, making the outer layer a snow-resistant layer, so usually some sort of nylon clothing that will repel snow, and then wearing a number of layers that you can sort of take off if you're getting too hot, or put another layer on if you're getting a bit chilled. It's important to choose clothing that will not get wet. So cotton is not a good choice. Polypropylene, fleece, those are good choices. And the important thing that I'd like to emphasize in terms of clothing is that outside of choosing stuff that is comfortable and allows you to move freely, you don't need any really special clothing for cross-country skiing, as long as it's appropriate in terms of warmth and snow repellency and flexibility. And one should not think that you need to get all of the clothing at once. So if you're starting to ski, just beginning to ski, you can sort of build up your ski wardrobe over time. You'll find stuff that you like to wear that allows you to move, keeps the snow off. And then, the next year you might add a different jacket to your ski wardrobe, and over time you'll build up the clothes that you like to wear when you're out skiing. So layers, and snow repellency and stuff that allows you to move will be the key things you're looking for.
All right. Melanie would like to know what type of socks are recommended and why do blisters sometimes develop?
I typically wear 2 pairs of socks when I'm skiing, a thin layer and then a little bit thicker woolen layer. Though I know a lot of people that will wear just 1 pair of socks, it's just a matter of what people are most comfortable with and most familiar with. Blisters are probably a result of ski boots not fitting properly. And ski boots are probably your most important part of your entire skiing package. If the boot doesn't fit properly, gives you blisters, you're probably not going to be enjoying skiing very much. So if you're just shopping for equipment, make sure that you start off by shopping for the boots. Select boots that fit you well. If you're getting blisters with a pair of boots that you're comfortable with, that you like, I would suggest trying moleskin. Put a piece of moleskin on your foot where the blister occurs, and that will probably keep you from getting additional blisters. With some of my ski boots, I actually put a note inside my boot, a little drawing of my foot, of where the blister occurs, so that next year when I put that boot on, I know where I need to put the moleskin on so I don't get a blister. So again, preparing a year in advance that I'm going to avoid blisters by keeping a note inside my boot.
Now that's experience.
It's not fun skiing with blisters.
Definitely not. Des would like to know, how do I determine what length of skis I need for my weight?
The rule of thumb for length of skis is that when you're standing up, if I can just sort of line this up, the ski should come up to your extended arm. So if I put my arm right above me, straight up, then the ski should come up to my flexed wrist. So I'd stand up, put my arm up above me, and then my ski will come up to this point. And that's a good rule of thumb. Buying skis at a ski shop, they should be taking into account your weight, because the skis of a similar length may in fact have a different camber and a different stiffness to them. So one ski might be a little bit stiffer, and you may not be able to push that ski down to grip the snow, and you'll find that you're always slipping. Or if the ski is too soft for you, the ski will be dragging all the time, and you just won't be going as fast, won't be enjoying your skiing as much. So in addition to just the proper length, make sure that the ski shop is giving you a pair of skis that is appropriate for your weight. And they have various procedures they can use to gauge that. In some instances, it's actually a mechanical gauge that will measure the stiffness of the ski. And it's a really good question, because selecting appropriate equipment is going to make a big difference in terms of how much you enjoy your skiing.
All right. Mari would like to know, if you lose or gain weight, do you need new skis?
The weight range on skis is probably in the order of about 20 or 25 pounds. So if you had a significant change in weight, yes, you may want to look at different skis. But if it's a matter of a few pounds, your skis will probably account for that difference. And if you have waxable skis, you may be able just to change the wax pocket, the area that you're applying the grip wax to account for getting a little bit more grip if you're slipping, or reducing the amount of grip if you're finding that the ski is dragging.
All right. Melanie would like to know, what is the appropriate length for poles?
Appropriate length for poles these days for diagonal stride skiing that we've looked at in the video here would be about up to the middle of a person's shoulder. So when you're standing up, you have the pole beside you and the pole will come up to about the middle of the shoulder. And you can sort of play with that a little bit, maybe couple centimeters longer, a couple centimeters shorter, but that's kind of a rule of thumb.
All right, and a question for beginners. Would you recommend starting out without poles for better balancing?
Not necessarily. Beginners really should start out really working on their balance. And we quite often in lessons will have people work without poles for quite a while. But the advantage in having your poles with you is throughout your learning experiences in skiing is that you'll develop that sense of coordination of the arms and legs through the entire process. So as long as your poles are not acting as crutches so that you're kind of supporting yourself and not balancing, you can certainly hang on to the poles. If you're finding that you're relying on your poles for balancing, then try skiing without the poles a little bit so you develop a stronger sense of balance. You can also just hold the poles mid-shaft beside you rather than using them as we've seen in the videos here, so that you've got your poles with you, but you're really relying on your own balance to develop your skiing skills there.
Okay, and when skiing with poles, how far forward do you put the poles? Just even with your feet or out further in front?
Let's go back to a video because I think I didn't quite mention that as we were skiing along or showing some of the video. So I'm going to go back to a screen share here if I can, and we'll take a look at some of that poling. And just let me find a position here. I'm going to try to find the exact spot where my pole is hitting the snow. And we'll take a look at this. There. So as we're using our poles, as mentioned earlier on, the important thing that we want to look at is that smooth arm movement and having our pole pointing backwards. So in terms of how far my pole is in front of me, my hand is in front of my shoulder with my arm flexed. And I can have a flexed arm to even as much as 90 degrees flexion. And that allows me to get more power into my poling action than if my arm was, for instance, straight out. The pole is pointing backwards, and the tip of the pole is going to hit the snow opposite of the other foot. So in this case, my right pole is coming down, and it's coming down beside or opposite my left pole is coming down, hitting the snow opposite my right foot. So it should really be kind of right beside the toe of the opposite foot. So the important thing here is that my pole is always pointing backwards. So as soon as it hits the snow and I start to put some pressure on the pole, I'm pushing myself forward with that pole. So I hope that it kind of explains that forward position that we have with pole. And I'll go back to Lindsay here.
All right. So Ken, the most common question we've received tonight is sometimes when people are skiing, their ski slips back. Why does that happen?
Ski slipping back is almost invariably because the person is not fully balanced on one ski. Excuse me. So the importance of shifting our weight from one ski to the other cannot be overemphasized. And if we've got our weight on both skis at any one point in the stride, we will have the ski that we're trying to push on slip back. It's important as we're skiing along that we get all of our weight onto one ski that pushes the ski down, allows that grip wax to grab the snow, allows us to push ourselves forward. And if we reduce the amount of weight on that ski by shifting some of our weight onto the other foot, then that ski is going to slip back while we're trying to push. So it's very, very important as we're skiing along to make sure that we've got that nice, smooth shifting from one ski to the other. And just to emphasize this point, I'm going to do the screen share again if I can, and we'll just look at that head-on video that I showed earlier on, and we'll get a good sense of what that balancing from one ski to the other looks like. Let me back this up a little bit. So as we're watching this video now, I want you to pay particular attention to how I'm cleanly shifting from one ski to the other. At no point am I on both skis at any one time. So I'm on one ski and then on the other ski. That allows me to get all of my weight onto each ski so I can have an effective push on each ski without slipping back. And back to Lindsay.
All right. So Ken, thank you so much for all the great information this evening and for sharing the videos with us and all the ski techniques. We really hope that everybody enjoyed the program this evening. I'm going to finish off with one last question and I'll actually answer this one. Although I'm sure, Ken, you probably know the answer from your years of skiing in parks. So the question is there a certain schedule for trail grooming at Birds Hill Park besides when we receive snow? And the simple answer to that is no. We basically have to have fresh snow before we can go out and groom. The way that the groomer works is it has kind of a rototilling motion to till the snow and pack it and set the tracks. And so we basically have to wait until we've received new snowfall before we can go out and do grooming. So we don't do a set grooming schedule such as, you know, every Thursday morning or every Saturday. Unfortunately, we're just not able to do it that way in parks. But when we do get new snow, we do try to get out and groom as quickly as possible after getting our roads plowed. And what we do on a regular basis is our grooming reports. And so you can check out the Manitoba Parks website, or you can visit us on social media at MB.gov.parks. And you can check out grooming reports every Thursday morning to see when the most recent grooming has taken place or what the trail conditions are currently looking like. I know the Manitoba Cross Country Ski Association is also excellent with keeping up reports of trail grooming around the province, and members share their comments and their experiences on the website. So that's another great resource that you can check out. So for this evening, I want to thank you all for joining us for our Learn to Ski webinar. Thank you again, Ken. Please do remember, if you do come out to visit us in parks, to follow all the current COVID-19 public health orders, practice the fundamentals of physical distancing from anyone not in your household, and always remember to practice leave no trace. Thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to sign up for other webinars and online events. Our next webinar is part of the Parks After Dark series, and this one will be exploring the path of the moon, taking a look at solar eclipses with special guests from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So that's coming up on Sunday, February 7th at 6:30 p.m. Details and registration information is available on our Manitoba Parks Facebook page or online at manitobaparks.com. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Ken. Have a great night and stay safe at home.